Hey, team players, here we are about to do another PPR mock. This is going to be about as basic as it can be. Standard setup PPR 10-man league. We've got the setup for this one. It's going to be all live people, so we're not dealing with robots as we're using the Sleeper app here to make it happen. So as I'm on the clock here with the first pick overall, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey because I'm about as big of a running back guy as you can be. I believe in building the strong foundation. I get the J.
Okay, now
okay, resume. So, guy messed up. Click Hopkins, and they're just not going to allow that. And obviously, Jamar Chase is who you should be taking as the second receiver on the board. Certainly not Hopkins, who's not even on a team. But as we look at this here, Bob, I want to hear about the guy that you've been talking about for a lot of the last couple episodes. The guy that you want to have on your team in Drake London, and we'll get to him, around the 4th or 5th round-ish?
Yeah.
Why are you so obsessed with a guy who's coming from a team that's only going to throw the ball like 20 times?
So I'm obsessed with him for a couple of different reasons. When Desmond Ridder came onto the field, Desmond Ridder found him a lot.
Okay.
When he passed the ball. I'm on the clock.
Yes, you are.
Let me take Saquon. So when
you took Saquon over Bijan. All right.
I like Saquon a lot. So back to the thought with
Drake London.
Drake London is that he had a massive slump with Marcus Mariota trying to get him the ball.
Sure.
And that is expected.
Mariota had like a fumble and a half per game or turnover and a half per game or something like that?
Mariota really couldn't give him the ball like he needed to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he still produced 800 yards last year with...
Ooh, Najee going that early. Ooh, that affects my plans on the turn. Good. Get rid of Pollard. Get rid of Henry. Taylor. Yeah, obviously he should have been going now. But get rid of Pollard, Henry.
So anyway.
Sorry.
So
just rooting out loud right now.
When Drake...
you took Taylor. Okay.
When Drake
Barkley and Taylor, that's pretty interesting.
When Drake London was on the field, he was on the field a lot. He was their number one wide receiver. 29% of the snap share in terms of, where the targets that are
of target share.
And so I see that even in a run-heavy team, the run heaviness has gotten better. They have a better option in Bijan Robinson on the field. Now, having multiple running backs of the talent level that they have opens the door, I would assume, more so for that passing game. It's similar to the Steelers. Get a good running game going, then you have some pass catchers on the outside that can put up some numbers. And Drake London's year last year, he's coming out in ADP right now, sitting at...
All right, so I would have taken Chubb there. Bob, I feel like I'm about to do some reaching here. Who's the receivers that are left?
So he's at an ADP 54, and that's sitting you right around the 5th round. And as a second, third wide receiver on your team, I don't think that you're going to be upset with him, knowing that Desmond Ridder can throw the ball better than Marcus Mariota, knowing that they're going to be moving the ball. There could be a couple red zone targets in his future as well. So those touchdowns could have a positive regression. You could have the yardage go up as well. They're a run-first team. We know that if you're the top option on a run-first team in terms of if there's a quarterback that can get you the ball, Drake London, I think, just pops off to me as a guy that you would want to have on your team. If you look at his stats from last year, and this is, this is from PPR, he ranked the last game of the season as the 10th best wide receiver. And then there were a lot of weeks that he ranked as like the last because that's Marcus Mariota's fault. And the talent's there. And he has a better...
He is talented. There's
no
doubt about
good
that.
Cast around him. And to take him that in the 5th round, that's where his ADP is. I'm perfectly happy with that.
So in this draft, to catch us up with what's going on here, there's a lot of people that are going off the boards and by what they want. We see Najee Harris going at 11th overall. We see Chubb getting taken before Henry and Jacobs. And I think that this is the direction of what we're really going to see happening when it comes around. I think Stevenson should be treated above Jacobs and Henry. Stevenson is an ascending player. Obviously, I'm the one to pick, but he's an ascending player who, while Henry is descending and Jacobs' situation is horrendous here. And as we sit here, Bob, I see you going with your boy Devante Smith finally getting him on your roster.
Yeah.
You know, Devante Smith last year was great. My only question with him, and this affects him more than Brown, is does the loss of their left tackle and right guard affect the pass protection enough so that they can still get the ball downfield to Smith? To me, that's the only real question with the Eagles, but I think it's definitely something that you need to look at as we're looking into training camp.
Keenan Allen up there too. Again, with Devonta Smith, I think that he just popped off so crazily last year.
Oh, he did.
And he didn't really come out of nowhere. That's one of the things that we know about Devonta Smith. He's a talented player. And so when you look at his game log last year from 2022, that back end of the season where you're pushing for the fantasy playoffs.
Mark Andrews went as the second tight end before a quarterback has gone.
Yeah, this is
an interesting draft. This is all people here actively doing it.
This is definitely unique. But again, Devonta Smith went off at the end of last year, and he had a couple games in the middle or at the beginning of last year too. I don't really see that as being an issue for him.
Yeah, I'm ready for the quarterback run. There is no doubt about that, because this is actually kind of scary, because my entire growth that I've had, and we've really been excelling in mocks, is because people were wasting picks on quarterbacks and tight ends early and really dropping a lot of value to us. And we can just see what happens when people are intelligent and they let quarterbacks go. This draft, all 10 people across, is probably the most balanced and even draft by far that we've recorded so far, Bob. I don't even think this is close. Like, this is a balanced draft because no one's wasted their time on wasting a quarterback. And I get Mahomes is something.
It's a little weird.
But there goes the first one. But
there goes the first one.
And maybe a run will happen, maybe it won't. But if you're sitting there and your first three picks, you have not taken a running back yet, and you see no quarterbacks going, you have to be scared. Because we look at the current running backs that are on the board, there's 4, maybe 5 viable ones left, and I know I'm taking 2 of them. So,
and while I don't like Etienne, I think in the 4th round there, that's where he should be going.
See, I would have taken Aaron Jones over Etienne.
I thought about it. I really did. I think in a PPR, Aaron Jones should be drafted a little bit higher than he's actually being drafted, because he actually does catch the ball. But the targets, I think that Jacksonville is going to have an easier time. There's Madison.
See, like I said, people are going and getting the players with playing time over the draft value. This is how you start seeing people move up draft board successfully. And I'm getting 2 running backs here for sure. It's going to be a combination of Dobbins, Jones, and Walker. Which ones am I getting?
That's going to be
because he can't take them both, and I got 3 of them I want.
All right.
He took Jones, so therefore it's going to be Kenneth Walker and J.K. Dobbins. And, Bob, we sit here, you take Etienne over Madison. Etienne has a lot less carries, a lot less playing time in general than they do in Minnesota's offense. So what makes you want to go that direction?
Well, trying something out here, taking a chance on Travis Etienne. Now, if this were my actual draft, I probably would have taken Aaron Jones or Madison. But Etienne does have that explosiveness about him. And I think in a Jacksonville offense that now has a credible second wide receiver, that there is going to be less people in the box, particularly when you're looking at Evan Ingram also excelling. And
that's a very valid point most people aren't bringing up.
And that speaks a lot to what Etienne's explosiveness could be. Because if he can rack off 10 yards, because there was a lot of times last year where there were like a 4-game stretch. I was just looking at his game.
Jared Judy went the 5th round. He's normally going in the 7th.
Yeah, I have to hold on. I have to pay attention to what I'm going to pick right here.
I totally understand it. This is by far the most competitive draft we have been in so far. And again, Bob is having the 7th pick overall, and I am having the 1st in this process.
This guy's got to go running back. He's probably going to take Pierce.
Yeah, I would say so. When we look at where the teams are at here, I just want to see there.
Drake London.
Drake London's your dude, and right before you too.
I mean, I have not seen Amari Cooper fall to the 5th round.
I would take Amari Cooper all day in the 5th round, though. I think he's worth it. I don't
think we have.
We really haven't. We really haven't. Like I said, this is much more of who I want than what the list says. And again, this is how you should draft.
When you look at it here,
it looks correct.
Drake London as your 3rd option. I mean, that
totally makes sense to me.
Auto, but that's
not an auto.
It says auto up there.
He wrote his name as auto. He's sitting there drafting. He's there messing with you.
The Drake London selection, like I said, there's a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we look.
Well, they don't have a number 2 receiver.
He was the 30-something ranked wide receiver last year, and now they've gotten a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that to say about that.
So this is one of the problems I have being on the turn is everyone in this draft sees I've taken 4 running backs. So they know I'm not taking a running back anymore. And they know that for this pick. So if the guy who's drafting before me is thinking about anything other than a running back, he can just take the running back on the 2nd slot, knowing that I won't affect his pick. This is the kind of thinking that you got to do when you're in that 2nd and 7th or 2nd and 2nd last spot.
Well, you're both going after wide receivers because you both saw each other with each other.
We both went running backs,
running backs. So now you've both tipped your hat at wide receivers, so you're gonna have to snake 2 wide receivers from them.
I'm definitely going to be taking 2 receivers, but I'm in a spot in the draft where I hate DJ Moore. I'm not sold on Christian Watson. As I look at the board right now, McLaurin and Pittman are the 2 guys I think I would want the most, but I doubt McLaurin's there when I pick. I don't want anything to do with DJ Moore at all. And tight ends are starting to go, which is nice. Gives me a chance for some of these guys to come to me. So we'll see how it shakes out here, Bob.
I mean, Goddard's going high. I'm just not sold on Goddard.
I'm not sold on Goddard either. I mean, at some point, you got to stay healthy for the whole year. And, that's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up to you, Bob. So when we look at the top 5 tight ends that all have gone off the board here, Kelsey, Andrews, Hawk, Kittle, and Goddard.
Yeah.
What makes Kittle the elite one is he's the only one that doesn't get hurt.
Kittle?
Yeah. Correction. Kelsey. Kelsey is the only one that doesn't get hurt. All of the other 4, Kittle especially, miss time. So how much of it is Kelsey the best tight end ever, or is he just never hurt? So therefore he kind of Cal Rickman's the stats up a little bit.
So I mean, there is a little bit to say to that. I mean, but I mean, in a PPR league, he scored he averaged probably 16 points. 16 to 17 points a game. You're up.
So there goes McLaurin. I'm not happy about how that went, losing McLaurin. So I'm going to have to go with Pittman and Williams. Which again, Mike Williams from the LA Chargers as my number 3 receiver. I'm going to take that as a pretty good day when it's all said and done.
But back to Kelsey. Kelsey has a very, very, very high floor and a very, very high ceiling on a week-to-week basis.
Sure.
There is no other player in the league that has a floor and a ceiling like him. Mm-hmm. Even Jefferson, there's a chance that, the targets are going to go his way. I think the 2 most bulletproof guys, and it's a little bit concerning when we're talking about bulletproof players. Mm-hmm. It feels like Jefferson and Kelsey. And for very good reasons. I mean, Kelsey's
number 1 on that team.
21, 30. I mean, the other players can do it, but there are, like you said,
you took Miles Sanders over DeAndre Swift.
I don't like DeAndre Swift. He has past injury problems, kind of like Miles Sanders does. Mm-hmm. But Miles Sanders has a niche in that system. He has a spot.
That's fair.
You know,
I just look at all the potential that could be, and I really like what Swift could become. I really, really do.
Swift could become a very valuable piece of Philadelphia's offense, but I also think that Miles Sanders could too. You saw what Dunce Foreman did, even in a lackluster offense down there. There's no reason to say Miles Sanders can't do that. Dunce Foreman's a different runner than Miles Sanders, of course, but you know, are they going to give him more playing time as a runner, or are they going to be throwing him the ball a little bit more? Both potentially an option there. You could be snaking a lot of points. And in the 6th round as your 4th running back, that's not a bad choice. Would I want to walk out of the draft with him as my 2nd running back?
No.
Probably not. You know, and I'll take a little bit of a longer look at Miles Sanders here.
Well, and look, we're at the point now, 7th round. Running backs are basically dead. So, and there's some people out there that just don't have the running back depth on their roster right now, and it's a problem.
Well, I'm very curious about this team that has Austin Eckler. That's the team that I'm most curious about because he has no other running back.
Yeah, that's a problem.
He's probably going to take Devante Williams, maybe Kamara. There goes Pacheco. He was a guy I was thinking about taking. That's
sure.
Very good selection there.
I think Pacheco's going to start flying up some boards too.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I'm glad to see the people like DJ Moore slipping. You know, like when I'm looking at this, Debo slipped. When we've seen him 3rd rounds earlier today, and he's here sitting at the 5th. You know, Dotson's a very good pick on your part, Bob. You know, he is probably one of the most underrated rookies from that class. I really love his game overall.
He's a little bit of a reach here, but I wasn't going to get him coming back.
No, you weren't, and that's part of the reality you got to live with. So
I'd rather live with him than so the other options were Evans, Lockett, and Pickens, and Ayuk, obviously. But I think that Jahan Dotson has a little bit more explosive potential outside of Pickens.
And that's where you see Christian Kirk is normally right in that group of Lockett and Pickens, and that you took him earlier, yeah. So it's about getting the guys you want at the end of the day, and if it means that you didn't get a filler guy in between, get the guy you want because you'll be better off. The worst thing you do is come out of a draft missing your guy over and over
again. This one taking Evans and Godwin and Debo. I'm not a fan of that.
That's fair.
That's a very it's an interesting piece.
All right, so Lockett just went, so I'm almost without a doubt going to be taking George Pickens here. And then coming around the bend, and we're talking 2 episodes ago about George Pickens as my number 2 receiver was scary. As my number 4 receiver, loving it. Absolutely loving it. And
time for your boy yet? Not yet.
Not yet. Always got to check. But it is time for Brandon Cooks. You can give me a number 2 on Dallas in the 9th round all day, every day. All day, every day. And we're coming around with, I'll only have 4 picks left. You have 5 left. You know, as we're approaching here, you know, you're going to start seeing your run on tight ends. If you haven't taken your quarterback yet, which I believe me and you might be the only 2 who haven't, you start looking at there. But I look at this all around, Bob, and I'm really liking how my draft has shaken out. And it's starting to become kind of chalky. No matter where I'm at, I'm taking the same guys because I believe that this is how it should rank. When you have guys that you know you want on your team because you know you can build something with them, it makes sense. And, you know, I don't know exactly who you're picking, but I bet Mike Thomas is on your radar.
He's up there.
Yeah.
He's up there 100% for sure.
And, you know, this is to my point. I think there's certainly times that if you know you have, especially receivers that you want to go big on, just have 1 quarterback and 1 tight end. Because the upside of if your guy hits is through the roof. You know, you win leagues with hitting on back end receivers that go off. I mean, sure, if a guy gets hurt at running back and you get a starting running back for the rest of the season, you can.
Mhm.
But Quentin Johnston is right there in that category. That super talented. One of the two guys ahead of him is definitely going to get hurt.
I had Trevor Lawrence, and I was trying to make an argument in my head for Trevor Lawrence, but I ended up not taking him.
Well, you have 4 picks left, and there's a lot, just 4 picks left. How many of these people do we really expect to take a backup quarterback in our league? And unless you're forced to, I normally estimate about 50% of the people will take a backup quarterback and the other 50% more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that puts me at 15 quarterbacks. The guys I want, I believe, are incredibly underrated by everybody, and they're basically always rated in the 20s in Carr and Love. So why worry about it? Because I don't see a difference between Carr and the guys that are going now. I mean, who's coming up on the list? It's going to be Daniel Jones,
Deshaun Watson,
yeah,
Prescott, Tua.
Dak is the exception. Dak is definitely a step above the rest of them.
Kirk, Rodgers,
but Derek Carr, I have in the exact same ballpark as Watson.
Well, here's your Cole Kmet pick coming up right here.
Sure will be. He'll be on my turn. For sure.
Cue him up.
Cue him up.
Cue him up, baby.
The question is, who am I going to be pairing him with? And I'm going to be. This is not the draft where. Yeah, I don't have St. Brown. I'm going to be pairing him up with Jameson Williams. I believe that my receiving core is certainly deep enough. I'm going to have Cole Kmet.
The opportunity to take a chance.
Yeah, that's ultimately what my sales pitch the whole time is, why you should take 4 running backs in the first 5 rounds. Because I have a foundation, I don't have to play backup running back and hope.
Mm-hmm.
I get that people are like, well, I could have had 2 stud receivers. Sure, but now you're desperate. I'm never desperate. Mike Williams is my number 3 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Is it awesome? Yes. Are there going to be people who have much better third receivers than me? Of course. But here comes Jameson Williams and Cole Kmet.
Your boy. Not your boy.
And this is part of the value of knowing you love someone that's not on people's big boards. Because first off, I know Cole Kmet was never coming back to me. But furthermore, I believe in the upside of him. And aside from Moore, he's the best receiver on that team. And that includes Mooney and Claypool. Cole Kmet is more athletic and a better catcher than both of them.
Moore?
I said behind Moore. He's behind Moore. Moore is without a doubt the best receiver on the team. But Cole Kmet's the second. And I just got the second best option on a team in the 11th round. And now I round it out with a quarterback, or correction, I get another floater and a quarterback. Let's see if I
want.
Well, no, I want. So I can tell you who my floaters are going to be, unless you take one of them. It's going to be either Sky Moore or Higbee. Those are my back end floaters for the back end. And for the exact same reason, number 2 on their team in terms of skill level and catching the ball. And if you can give me a number 2 guy in the 12th or 13th round, it's pretty obvious. Now, granted, you could take both of them right here. Oh, Dak Attack. I like Dak so much more than Tuitt. It's not even funny.
So then, I need a tight end. Do I want to go tight end here? No. Well, I'm going to have to. I'll take Higbee.
Oh, so you take Higbee off me, which is fine. I'm going to go with Sky Moore and then my quarterback.
Who is going to be Derek Carr?
Probably going to, well, yeah, let's look at the list right now because it's not going to change that much. Here is my thing with Anthony Richardson. I think that he could potentially be the best running back quarterback, with the exception of maybe Fields, in the entire NFL. But I don't think he's playing. I think that Indianapolis legitimately believes that they had one off year. They have a division that is primed for the taking, and that the Mississippi mudflap can get them there. So I don't think Richardson's actually going to play.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll really have to see what happens. I'll tell you this. If I'm walking out of the draft with Josh Allen and Richardson, I mean, it's not.
Was Sky Moore taken?
Sky Moore? Yeah, he was just taken.
Oh, okay. My bad. I missed it.
Yeah,
Okay.
after I took Higbee.
Well, there goes both the guys I wanted. Now I'm a little bit of a sad territory. Well,
You have 2 seconds.
I'm going to be taking Kirk Cousins with that pick.
Will you?
Hope so. It's blinking. All
Ah.
right. So Kirk Cousins gets in there. And then in terms of upside players left, I look at the tight end room. Not really. And look at the running back room here real quick. Here's a name I think is awesome. Tyler Algier. Super running back team. And, there's obviously you're playing the injury game at that point, but
McKinnon just got taken. I was really curious about that.
But given the fact that my roster is essentially stacked here, I'm pretty much okay with all this. Taking out Gier at the end. I would have loved to have had Sky Moore, and I would have loved to have Higbee, and they go back to back there. But I took Cousins. You're right; it was a panic pick. I just had to click something.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Carr and Cousins, I have the exact same world. Same with Rodgers. I would have taken Carr had I had time. Actually, and if there were more rounds, I would have just gone and pushed off quarterback deeper. Because, again, I believe that Love and Carr definitely more so, have tremendous upside this year. And I think they're going to take off. So, Bob, looking at the draft overall, how do you feel about your team?
I mean, I feel good about it. The things that we've been talking about, what we need to watch out for is that if you go wide receiver early, now this draft was very much more realistic to me than a lot of the ones that we've done so far.
With veterans, yeah.
These are ones where, the first quarterback's not taken until the 4th round. That shows me that people are valuing the talent at the higher end, and they know that the quarterback is valuable, but we can wait on them as long as everybody else is just sitting there, waiting on them as well. As I said before about Madison going in the 4th round, probably going to jump up to a third round, second round guy, maybe at when it comes to the end of draft season here. I really like Devante Smith and his potential this year to continue to just wipe people out because he has A.J. Brown on the opposite side. If A.J. Brown gets hurt, Devante Smith can easily step up into that role. If Devante Smith goes down, there's going to be a lot of targets there for A.J. Brown. Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson could be explosive. That could be lights out, and you're getting Amari Cooper in the 4th and 5th rounds in most drafts. Christian Kirk coming out at the 7th round. I mean, we're all expecting Ridley to do his thing as he did before he left the league.
If he wants to play, that's a caveat.
Now, Christian Kirk had 130 targets last year. Could we see those targets go down? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not going below 100.
But I think that he has to be more efficient with his targets, and I think that could happen. Now, Dotson is a home run threat. Sam Howell can throw the ball. Hopefully there's not a quarterback carousel again in Washington, and hopefully Jahan Dotson can play a full year. Quentin Johnston, you're banking on the top 2 guys getting hurt, but there's a place in that lineup for Johnston. And I think that even if they
don't get hurt, he could take all of Everett's balls.
He could really take a lot of opportunities away from other players. Again, Thomas, we've talked about him a lot, and Hunter Renfrow. In these drafts, I take him in the last round or around that time, just to show you that there's a potential there. We know that Jimmy G is not as a dynamic as a thrower down the field. He's a good quarterback, but he isn't at the level that
Carr is
throwing it down the field as Derek Carr is. And I think Renfrow is a good option for you, especially later on, and especially as a 6th wide receiver, because I like to come out of my draft with at least four to 5 running backs and at least 6 wide receivers, particularly if you're starting 2 or 3 wide receivers and a flex. I think it's really important. Chubb going later in the 2nd round, that does make sense depending on how the wide receivers shake down. I think Garrett Wilson here in the 2nd round. I would rather have Olave, Higgins, Devonta Smith, and Waddle, or maybe less Waddle, Higgins, Smith, and Olave over Garrett Wilson, but Garrett Wilson is the number one wide receiver there. We know that Aaron Rodgers, if he keys in on Wilson, that could be deadly.
I can't trust Aaron Rodgers.
We don't really know if that's going to happen or not. The guy that
he hates young players.
The team here that I am not about is the team that took Wilson, because they also took Mixon as their number one running back and Pierce as their number two.
Yeah, it's such a bad team.
Mixon for me is one of those guys where if I can get him as my third running back, I'm okay with it. But I don't really want him as my first running back at all either, because if you're looking at a PPR league, he had that week where he had 55 points, and then he had the first week, which was 21 points, and then he sat below 20 points essentially every single week. And, is the upside there? I don't know. I don't think so. And so having him as my number one, I think it would have been better to not go Waddle there and to take a chance on, let's say, Jacobs or Breece Hall, and bypass Waddle altogether, because then you could have came back and where you took Mixon, you could have still taken Mixon, or you could have taken DeAndre Hopkins, or you didn't have to take Burrow there and come back and take Kenneth Walker, and then on the redraft take Fields. But you've got to like Burrow. But I'm not a big fan of taking Burrow, Mixon, and Chase, because there's not a good chance that if Burrow goes off, Mixon's going to go off at the same time, and that I don't really like taking.
It puts a glass ceiling over your team, is what it does. You
go by the Bengals, and that's theoretically why I don't like to take a lot of guys from the same team, like you did the one time with Detroit. For by all means and purposes, if you took Hurts, Brown, and Devonta Smith last year, you probably won your league.
Yeah.
But
that's how good Hurts was.
But that's to say that doesn't often happen. So you are putting a ceiling on your team. If that team does really bad one week, well, then you're probably going to do really bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth. So, team players, we appreciate you listening to us here today and being with us as we conclude the episode. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe, become a full-blown team player, and then let us know your contact information if you want to join one of our best ball leagues. We will be here. Just put your email in the comments below, or you can go to our YouTube homepage and click on our email there and send us an email with obviously yours and your name. So we look forward to talking to you, and we'll be with you here tomorrow.